Here's a Lambda function calling DynamoDB. Where are the AWS credentials? There are none, and that's the point. IAM Roles let AWS services authenticate to each other without a single credential ever being written, stored, or leaked. This is the feature that separates teams that have been breached from teams that haven't. An IAM role is a temporary identity. Unlike a user, which is permanent and tied to a specific person, a role is assumed. Any entity that AWS trusts can pick it up, use it for a limited time, and put it back down. The credentials last between 15 minutes and 12 hours, then they expire automatically. There is nothing to rotate, nothing to store, and nothing to leak. Here is what actually happens. Your Lambda starts executing. It calls the AWS Security Token Service, STS, and says, I want to assume this role. STS checks the trust policy. Is this Lambda allowed? If yes, STS returns 3 temporary values, an access key ID, a secret key, and a session token. The SDK uses those to sign requests. When they expire, the SDK refreshes automatically. You never see any of this. It just works. Every role has 2 policies. The permission policy defines what the role can do. S3, get object, DynamoDB, put item, whatever it needs. But roles also have a trust policy, a second document that defines who is allowed to assume the role. You set the principal to a specific AWS service, another account, or a specific user. Both must agree. The trust policy lets the entity assume the role, and the permission policy lets the role take the action. 4 patterns you will use constantly. Lambda execution roles. Every function gets a role with only what it needs. EC2 instance profiles. The instance assumes a role automatically, perfect for background agents. ECS task roles. Each container gets its own isolated role. And cross-account roles. One AWS account accesses resources in another without ever sharing a credential. 3 mistakes to avoid. Wildcard trust policies. Setting principal to star means anyone in AWS can assume your role. Always scope to a specific service or account. The confused deputy attack, a third party assuming your role on behalf of attackers. Fix it with a condition block and an external id. And reusing one role across multiple services, baby. One role per service so a breach stays contained. IAM roles are the most secure way to give AWS services access to each other. No credentials, no rotation, no leaks. Next up, IAM policies in depth. Inline versus managed, resource-based versus identity-based, and the evaluation logic behind every allow and deny.